Alright, so for today's lesson, we're going to be working with pattern block fractions. So our objective for today's lesson is to use pattern blocks to name the fraction of a whole shape. So just before we begin, kind of want to review some of the shapes that we learned about at the beginning of the year. So obviously you know what a triangle is. We're also going to be referring to a hexagon for this activity and also a rhombus. And the rhombus, you'll see in the video, I have two different types of rhombuses that we will be referring to. So first for a warm-up, this is the warm-up question I just want you to think about, and there will be a question on the Google form that is very similar to this warm-up question. So I will know that if you've watched this video, because I'm pretty much going to give you the answer to the Google form question right now. So the warm-up is, half of the students in Mrs. Glad's class went to movie night, and half of the students in Mrs. Stenny's class went to movie night. Did the same number of students go to movie night from both classes? So if you were solving a problem like this, the first thing you have to think of is we don't know how many students are in Mrs. Glad's class, and we don't know how many students are in Mrs. Stenny's class. If I have 24 students in my class and Miss Stenny has 22 students, okay, half of 24 is going to be 12, and half of 22 is going to be 11, which means I'm actually going to send more students than she is. The problem doesn't give us enough information to solve, so, when answering this question, you would have to say, we need to know how many the whole amount is before we can determine what half of the students would be. Alright, so now we're going to talk about how we would use pattern blocks to determine a fraction. So in front of us I have our hexagon, okay, right over here we have our hexagon, and we're going to start with a triangle. And the way we're going to do this, and it has to be, for this activity in front of us that I'm referring to on the screen, I'm referring to with an equilateral triangle. All sides on my triangle are equal, okay? And what I want you to try and figure out is how many of these triangles can I fit into my hexagon. Okay, so right now on your post-it note, I want you to write down how many of these triangles do you think I can fit into my hexagon? Well, if we look at it, okay, so if I make kind of a line here, I'm going to notice that the point of my triangle is going to meet right about in the middle there. Okay, so I'm going to move my triangle out, and I could fit, and now this is, I'm drawing this freehand, so obviously my lines aren't very straight, but I could fit 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 triangles into my hexagon, which means that each triangle is going to be 1/6 of my hexagon. So this triangle over here represents 1/6 of my hexagon. Okay, so if I asked you, if I said this is 1/6, but then I made this 1/6 blue, this 1/6 blue down here, maybe I'm going to make this 1/6 purple, and this 1/6 purple. What if I asked you how much of my hexagon is shaded in blue? Well, you would know that you had 1/6, 2/6. So 2/6 of my hexagon is blue. I'm going to look at my purples. I have 1, 2. I have 2/6 of purple. And I also have, for red, I have 2/6. Because I have 1/6, 2/6. Alright, let's move on to the next one. What if I wanted to fit a rhombus into my hexagon? Okay, and now obviously the angle on this rhombus is not quite the same, but you can see by me sliding it over that half of my hexagon is a rhombus, is this particular rhombus. So this rhombus is 1/2 of my hexagon. Does that make sense? I can fit two, oops, if I did this correctly and I had the correct angles, I could fit two of these, one on this side and one on the other side flipped over, okay, so I could rotate it. Let's see if I can can't, trying to rotate it. So I could fit two of those rhombuses into my hexagon. Okay. Now this one, this is also another rhombus, and I could fit this one if I rotated it. I could make it so that it would fit right here. Okay, my angles are just a bit off, but so I could make it so that it fits right here inside my heptagon, or excuse me, inside my hexagon. And I could, oops, and I'm going to move it a little bit more. Okay, so I rotated it a little bit more, and you can kind of see if it were the right angle, I would be able to fit one right here. So for this particular rhombus, also known as a diamond shape, I would be able to fit 3 of them into my hexagon. So it would be 1/3, 1/3, 1/3. Now what if I asked you how much of my heptagon is purple? Well, you have 1/3, 2/3. So 2/3 would be purple. And how much of it is blue? You have 1/3. 1/3 of that is blue. Alright, that completes the lesson for today. We will be doing some more pattern block activities when you're working with me over at the kidney table. At this point, you can go ahead and complete the Google form. Make sure that you are taking your time, especially when working with the warm-up problem on the Google form, which is very similar to the warm-up problem in this lesson. Okay? And you are to complete the Google form independently. This completes today's lesson.